Exactly. Everything's good. Nice when this kind of stuff's over.
I bet. I guess talk through how you got to this decision that this will be the last one, right? You've been toying with it for a while, but how did you decide, this is going to be it?
It's just a feel I got. It was just over time. I'd been doing this a long time, accomplished a lot, just felt it was time.
Nice. You're so beloved in the sport. I mean, do you get a chance to see that? I mean, we see it from the outside looking in. Do you sense that respect that you have? It's almost greater than I've ever seen in the sport.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I actually try not to focus on it because I don't. It's like one of those things where I created this like gap between other people giving me accolades and praise, like, because you can't go through life trying to seek praise from other people and those things. I'm trying to seek praise from myself, really. So it's like being able to accept that people are, and me being like, oh, thank you, I appreciate that. It is definitely something that I've never really allowed myself to get involved with, because maybe one of the reasons I've been able to do this for so long is because I just focus on what I need to focus on. Because you're going to win, you're going to lose. There's going to be people around you that are excited, and that's just, you can't control how other people treat you. So I don't try to rely on that for anything. But it's nice. I try not to look back at all my career because I've been doing this for so long, because it's so much, and I'm focused on going forward. Yeah. I mean, that's how I've always been, focused on going forward. And when I look back at it, it's just, it's a lot. I mean, I've a lot of people who helped me get to where I am today, and a lot of good training partners. I mean, it's just crazy.
This next phase of your life, I mean, I doubt you can remember a time when fighting wasn't a part of your life, right? I mean, so are you looking forward to it as like, I don't have to deal with this responsibility anymore? Or there's a little fear of like, man, there's going to be this hole missing? What's your thoughts?
I would say there was fear, because it's freaking unknown. Like, I've been training and competing my whole life. Like, even when I was supposed to be in high school or middle school, I'm like concentrating on how to get better at wrestling or football or whatever, fighting, when I should be doing my homework. So that's where I've always been. So one thing that I feel that I'm going to get out of this is I'm going to actually just be able to train for fun again, which is huge. Like, my body feels better when I'm training for fun. When I'm training for a fight, it just doesn't feel as good as it used to. And I don't have to recover now, so like I could actually torture myself, which just seems weird. Like, because that's my goal, is to like torture myself, beat myself down, and that's how I gain strength. But now, since I'm older, I can't recover as fast, so that's it. So I'm going to be able to torture myself a little bit more and give myself more rest.
I like it. Give us your thoughts on Niko as a final opponent. I mean, stylistically, it seems like it could be an exciting matchup. Is that the type of fight you want in your last fight?
Nothing against Niko, but I didn't really care who I was fighting. I'm always just focused on myself and like trying to get my stuff situated, trying to feel good on Saturday is really what I'm focusing on. And if I feel good, then fight's going to go good. So that's what I focus on. And I let the UFC kind of take care of that stuff. Dave Martin, they talk. They're like, hey, what do you think about that? And I'm kind of like, whatever, like, let's just go.
Nice. Last thing for me, you touched on the fact that you'll keep training. I mean, do you see yourself staying around the sport, being a part of like corners and coaching in camps or anything, or do you want to withdraw from the sport and be away from it?
No, I'm definitely going to be around the sport. This sport's given so much to me. The reason I am where I am today and been able to last this long is because of all the people helping me. So I'm going to give back all these little tidbits I've learned over time. And we have a really good gym at Killcliff FC, and just like being able to help guys get stronger so that they can make money and compete at a high level. And that's what I feel like martial arts is about, is giving back and showing techniques.
Robbie, back here. Robbie, back here. Congratulations on an amazing career, and thank you for so many great, iconic moments. So your first fight was 22 years ago. Did you ever imagine, or could you ever fathom, how much the sport has grown since your very first fight?
No, I remember what the UFC champions were driving around then, like what kind of cars they were driving, and like I was just happy to. I'm like, hold on a second. So when I was 16, Milicic brought a whole bunch of 5 fighters into our wrestling room to wrestle with us, and I was like, and I was a fighter. I mean, I did martial arts growing up, and I was wrestling, and I'm like, hold on a second, what do you guys do? I'm like, oh shit, this is what I'm gonna do with my life. So like, but I didn't know. It was just like I didn't go into it for money necessarily. I went into it because I loved competing and I loved fighting and I loved sharpening my skills. And where the sport's come since then is ridiculous. I mean, when I first signed with the UFC, I went into their offices, and there was a security guard outside and probably 4 people in the whole building, workers. I mean, there's Dana, there was Donna, there's freaking Joe Silva, and a lawyer. I mean, that was it. So, I mean, this sport is huge. UFC is huge, and it's nice to be a part of it and see the growth and be able to last and be a part of it.
And your first UFC fight was at UFC 37, and now we're at UFC 290. And I can name about 1 million favorite Robbie Lawler moments, but is there one moment in particular that you could say, yeah, that's my favorite career moment?
Not really, because I don't really like rate myself and do those types of things. I mean, big fight for me, though, I think, in my career with the UFC was probably my first Hendricks fight, because I didn't get it done. Plain and simple, I didn't get it done, and I thought I should have, and he outcompeted me and got the job done. So after that, I was on a mission, and I think that was a big fight for me.
Thank you very much for the memories.
Thank you.
Robbie, I know right here. I know you said you don't like to look back, too much. It's always been about looking forward, but tomorrow night you're having a fight inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame as well. Are you planning on attending the ceremony, or is that too difficult with the weight cut?
No, I'm not sure what's gonna happen, but I've been doing this so long. My weight's good, so I'm good.
And you're a very even keel guy, I know, but is any of this stuff like stirring up emotions, like tomorrow night when you're going to be inducted, the final walkout? Like, are you kind of processing it in that way, or not really?
I think it could, and it has come up, but I try not to, because it's a lot. I mean, I've been freaking doing this a long time.
Yeah, and we talked before the last fight when it was going to break this like main card streak you had been on to go to the prelims, and then you got ultimately bumped up again, but it seems like might work out that way. What does it kind of say that you spent 20 years not being on a prelim fight until now, and obviously it's the featured one. It's still on ABC and ESPN and all these massive platforms, so a lot of people will see it.
I think it just shows that I go out there and fight, I'm going to put on a show. I've been doing this for a long time, and I wouldn't necessarily think that it's that cool, because you know how I am. I'm like, whatever, like, let's just go out there and fight. I'm put on a show. If there's one person in there, if there's one person watching, whatever, let's freaking fight. But I'm growing up now, and I appreciate everything I accomplished, and being on the biggest stage at the end of my career after the long career is awesome.
And just last thing, you mentioned working with all these fighters at Killcliff and everything. You got like Ian Gary and Shavkat and all these people. Which one of these, and I know maybe a difficult thing to answer, I don't want you to disrespect any of the others, but which one of these guys has like the highest ceiling, in your opinion, in the sport?
I would just say whoever is willing to put in the work and stay focused, and not let the media, not let hype drive them, and who can stay grounded and focus on what they need to do, because it's a long road. I mean, And if you want to stay up there at the top, you got to focus on the little details, and you need to keep everything simple and not think you're hot shit. You just need to freaking go out there and work with all the freaking everybody and get after it. And I think anybody who's willing to do that for many years is going to achieve a lot.
Robert, over here. Robert Whitaker was in here earlier, and I was asking him, like, maybe some of his favorite memories of you. And he said that when he was at welterweight, he saw you fight, and his first thought was F fighting that guy. He also said that when he watches you fight, he thinks that if you could, you would bite your opponent. So I'm curious what you think of that assessment.
I appreciate it. I don't think I'd bite. I'd probably headbutt. I'd probably eye gouge, really. Like, I mean, I would bite. I don't know.
Then, the final one for me. When you look, like, now that you're putting your career to an end, there's still fighters like Matt Brown. He has the knockout record. Jim Miller has the win record. He wants to now fight on UFC 300 because he fought on UFC 100 and 200. Nice. Do you look at, like, that generation of fighters that came up with you, and, like, there's just like a different camaraderie with all you guys that came up during that Zuffa era through the Reebok into the ESPN era?
Yeah, it's hard to say because, like, even those guys, I feel like I was fighting way before them. So it's like, I mean, when I first came in, it was like, I think I signed with the UFC in, like, 01 or something. So it was just weird. But I think when you have appreciation for guys, when I see these guys, I'm like, man, you're freaking still here. I'm like, you're freaking tough as hell. Because just the training camps alone, like, you don't realize to be here for this long, the training camps alone, keeping your body, keeping focus with everyone pulling at you. Hey, you got to go here, you got to go here. Let's go do this. Your buddies want to hang out with you. It's just, you need to stay focused. And guys who have done that for a long time, I really appreciate it.
Robbie, so much of your early years, of course, back in the Quad Cities, Bettendorf, Iowa. How do you look back now at those formative years for you?
I think that was the best time as far as training. It was when I first started training, everybody in there was tough. And I don't mean tough technically, I mean just tough. If you were fighting in 2000, then you're not making any money. You're doing this for the freaking love of competing. And we probably had like 10 high-level guys who just like pushed each other, and there was no room for weakness. Only the strong survived. And I think I learned so much from that. Just getting in there and getting thrown in the deep end and like trying to figure out how to survive and learn, and then show up the next day, get beat up, and then try to learn. Like, I did some good stuff which kept me coming back, like, but there was days that were rough. So those shaped and molded me. Like, Jens really helped me. I'm so excited for him to be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. I mean, he wanted this, which is very important to him, and I slept on his couch many a times. He helped me out with my boxing so much. Obviously, Matt Hughes threw me around. Actually, when I was a senior in high school, my coach, because I was actually a decent wrestler, like, hey, go with this guy. And frickin' Hughes was frickin' slamming me around like hard, where my coach was like, okay, like, that's enough of that. Like, that's how it was. It was like no mercy type thing. So definitely, and obviously Pat Miletich, another UFC Hall of Famer and champion, put a lot of time and effort into me, and that gym, it was just, we just fed off each other. We just always believed we were going out there to smash somebody. It was us versus everyone else, and we're going to crush everyone, and that was our mindset, and I think that helped throughout my career.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, Robbie, back here. Robbie, when people talk about the fight with Rory McDonald and going into the Hall of Fame, when fighters tell you how much they love it, does that make it extra special to hear specifically from, all of your coworkers that get in the cage?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite there yet where I'm still absorbing other people excited about things I've accomplished, but as I get older and I'm trying to figure out how to I'm just out there competing, just giving it my all, and it's what I do, and I mean, I guess it's nice, but I'm happy with how it was so long ago too. I'm on to the next thing, but it's just weird for me to. I just don't know how to accept it, and it's just because I didn't get into this sport for praise and hype and those types of things. I'm just trying to be the best I can be, and so maybe I need to figure out a way to let people appreciate me, huh?
I mean, I think you'd find a lot of people are ready to. To talk about that, when Rory came to Killcliff, fans were wondering, is it a little bit like Rocky III? They ended up having a third war behind the scenes in the gym. Can you speak to any of that? How good did any sparring session get with Rory when he came over?
Oh, no, I don't usually go hard anyways, and he doesn't usually go hard in his sparring. So it's about getting to your spots and having your feet underneath you. He's a very technical fighter, really good on the ground, so I learned a lot of stuff from him. But he's actually very analytical, so his sparring sessions will be more about working on certain things, which is kind of how I fight. It's all right, I need to get to this spot. What happens if I do this? What does he do? So he's very sharp individual, and it was nice to see. Which I already knew that because I fought him twice and trained for him. So it was.
Final question. There's only one you, but if you were to point out one of the guys on the roster and say, that's the next Robbie Lawler, savage, unbreakable, always brings it, love of the game, is there a guy you would name?
No. Just I would say I don't really watch too much unless one of our guys are fighting. I mean, these guys freaking are just pumping out shows, so it's hard. I mean, and I'm spending family time now, so it's hard for me to get away from those things. So I'm focused on other aspects now, but I'm sure there's many out there who are willing to give it their all.
Robbie, over here. You sort of talked a little bit about it. Is coaching kind of what you're going to be doing in retirement? Is there any other things you're looking to do now that you're not going to be having to train for a fight?
Yeah, and I mean, that I've been coaching for pretty much my whole career because that's kind of what you do. Even when I was training for fights, I was at the high school, coaching wrestling, coaching other fighters, just giving little tidbits here and there. But yeah, we have a gym, Killcliff FC, and I'm going to help those guys fulfill their dreams and wherever they want to go. I'm going to Henry Hoof and I and Greg Jones and all the coaches over there are doing a great job getting these guys ready. I mean, we've got a lot of really good fighters. So martial arts is about giving back, and I think all sports is about giving back and making life easier for others. All this knowledge that I have, there's no sense keeping it to myself.
Leading up to this fight this week, did you have a lot of the guys from the old Militich camp reach out and kind of congratulate you or anything? Has Pat talked to you or anything?
No, not here and there. I talked to Jens here and there. I talked to Pat here and there, but I actually called Jens about a computer question for my son. So
he's good for everything.
We don't need to talk about fighting all the time.
And you talked about some of the up-and-comers at your gym, maybe not personality-wise, but fighting-wise. Does Ian Gary remind you a little bit of yourself in terms of, he's a in-your-action, type of fighter, really likes to make it entertaining?
Yeah, no, he comes out and fights. He's going out there to take people out and look good, and he is who he is. Let these guys be them, and let me be me.
And just last one, looking back on your career now, is there one opponent you wish you would have been able to share the octagon with that you didn't get a chance to?
I mean, back in the day, maybe I was like, but now, like, looking back, I'm like, guys cross your paths for certain reasons, and it just is what it is. It's just MMA. Like, no, I'm good.
Well, I'll throw one out at you because you guys never fought. Was George St. Pierre a fight you would have wanted to have at some point, just with the history of Matt and him?
Yeah, I think that would have, because he was like, when I was on the outside of the UFC looking in, he was the guy I was training for. Like, the whole time, I was like, I want to fight this guy. So, like, yeah, like, I trained to fight that guy all the time.
Congrats
He
on
was the
retirement.
best.
Back here. Just one quick question for you. Obviously, you've talked many times about how long your career was, the amount of fights you've had in Vegas. I can't even count. What's your favorite thing about Las Vegas?
I mean, obviously, the fight's best part, but the food's amazing here. Lots of really good food. I love eating, so I'm a foodie. So, food.
Rob, just one question. A colleague of mine in Hawaii wanted me to ask you about your time that you spent in Hawaii. After your first initial stint with the UFC, you went to Hawaii, fought like 5 times, you became a champion for the first time in your career. He wanted to know kind of what that did for your resurgence of your career and, what eventually led to where you got to.
It was great. I actually moved up to 185, so there was no more weight cutting. I would just go there and I'd eat galbi and freaking mac salad and rice. So, and I was on vacation. I think the first time I went there, like, I didn't stay after. I'm like, and then my buddy was like, I'm like, hey, I'm going home. He's like, no, I'm staying here for a couple of days. And I was like, shit, I should have thought of that. But I mean, I grew as a fighter there. It was, I loved the rules. First of all, it was pride rules, which is the best rules. For those of you guys who don't know, knees to the head on the ground, soccer kicks, those types of things. But I grew a lot, and what I didn't get very much was this. I did not have to do very much media. Like, it was just like show up there on vacation, maybe a little bit of media, but like not really, because it's laid back there anyways. And then I just go out there and fight and then go eat food. So like, I just was able to kind of hide and make some money, and then I was just watching the UFC from there.